Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of how to create your Minecraft server from A to Z 2026 edition. Today we're going to go over all the basics of creating your server, how to start off right and how not to skip any crucial steps, because right from the beginning there are some really key steps to make sure your server is clean and most importantly well organized for the future. So as usual for this video we'll be using the host administrator as our base. I'm going to explain a bit how everything will be organized at the start of creating our project. And as always, you'll find all the links in the description, so don't hesitate to check them out. Also, you have the promo code FOTRE, which will give you a 10% discount on top of the discount you get if you choose a longer term plan. So don't hesitate, it can really help you out at the beginning. Also, I've already done a full presentation of the Administrator host in episode 1, so feel free to check it out. But overall, it's one of the best hosts on the market and it will really help you get a quality machine to start developing your server. So don't hesitate to take a look. As I mentioned in episode 1, you go to products, then to buying guide, and if you don't know which machine to choose, don't hesitate. Go to this tab, click on Minecraft, and then fill in everything you want for your server, what matches your server, and it will tell you the most suitable machine for your project. So once you've purchased your machine and you have your server directly on the panel, you'll be able to connect to your box. Be careful, you always have a panel for your box and a panel for your server. The difference is that within a box you can create multiple servers. For example, here I already have a server called DevMain, another one called ApoDev, and another called Dev2. Basically, these are 3 different servers that allow me to run 3 different Minecraft servers. I can then choose to link them together. I can choose to make 3 independent servers and so on. And here, in this video, we're really going to create a brand new server that will be completely independent and that I'll use just for this video. After that, it's up to you to decide. I could very well have created just one server on this box. It's really up to you to decide how many servers you want to create on your box, but basically, the more servers you create, the more you'll have to split your machine's performance across several servers. For example, here on my box, I had 4 CPU cores available with 16 GB of RAM. Well, I decided to allocate 1 core to each server and 4 GB of RAM per server, instead of assigning 4 cores and 16 GB of RAM to a single server to really give it all the power of my box. That's a choice you have to make yourself. So let's get started. We're going to create a new box for my video. So we're going to go to the tab right here, create a server. Here, you type Minecraft. You can type any other game name if you want a different game. And here you'll be able to, just like that, directly choose the amount of RAM. So I only have 1 core left available and 4 GB of RAM since I've used the rest for my other servers. But basically I can just pick whatever I want. I choose the location of my machine. If you're in the United States, you can choose the United States and basically that's it. Your server is now created. Here you can set the panel to English if you prefer. And now all the labels are in English and you can now rename your server. Right here you enter, so I'm going to put YouTube so I can recognize that it's for the YouTube series. Then here you can click on manage your server. So on the little eye icon, I'm going to switch the panel back to French anyway, it'll be nicer. And now you have access to your server, so YouTube in your main box. So once again, if you don't know what a box is for, feel free to watch my first video on the topic to really understand a bit how it works. So by default, it installed version 1.21.11 for me, but if you want, you can change your server's version. So for that, it's very simple. You go to the version tab, which is right here, and you can choose either a vanilla version or a version with a mod pack directly. If you want to create a Minecraft Bedrock server, you can select the Bedrock option right here. Bungee Cord and Velocity are for linking several servers together. For example, I had 3 other servers and I could have easily set it up so that these servers were interconnected, and then through a hub you could access them with a compass, for instance. Next, you can choose a server with plugins. That's what we're going to use in this video, a paper server. Here you have servers with mods and here with plugins plus mods. So there you go, that's pretty much everything available to you. We're going to use a paper server and stick with version 1.21.11. It's the simplest and we're going to reinstall our server so we can start fresh. And there you go, we just have to start it up and we're good to go. We have our server that's already ready and running, ready to be configured and to welcome players. So as you can see, your server is now started. In the console, everything shows that the server is working. We can just like that type TPS to see that we have 20 TPS, so the server is responding properly. Now what can we do? We can start editing our server. So you go to the access section, which is basically the FTP access for your server, and right here you can actually connect to your server using WinSCP. So if you don't have WinSCP yet, feel free to download it on Google. It's very simple, just type WinSCP and you'll find it right away. Don't get confused, the site looks like this and you simply go to download right here, and that will allow you to connect to your panel So by clicking on WinSCP Setup right here, then you'll be able to connect directly by clicking on Connect with WinSCP. You also have the addresses, well, the host of your server with the port, the password and the username, which you can enter directly into WinSCP when you launch it. But to connect more quickly, there's a little button, like I mentioned, right there. You click on it and it will take you straight to your application. And once that's done, it should look like this. So you actually have a lot of files here, and right now you're at the root of your server, which means the main page. And this is where you'll be able to edit anything you want. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what each file is for, so that you really understand what we're talking about and you'll know exactly what you'll be doing next when you create your server. So first of all, we have the files that are a bit useless. Let's start with the banned files, which basically store data about players who have been banned from your server using the default Minecraft commands. So these are files that honestly we don't really care about much. So banned, OP, these are for storing the players who are OP on your server. Permission, user cache, all that stuff, you really don't need it. Now, moving on to the files that might interest you a bit more. For example, we have the bookit.oml file. And in this file, you'll actually find a bunch of little parameters that will let you change, well, some settings of your server. So there are lots and lots of things. We're not going to explain everything in this video because it wouldn't be useful, but what I recommend is that you head over to the PaperMC website. Here you can see you have a link to the documentation and here a reference for Bookit configuration. And actually inside it will explain what all the settings there are for. So allow end is to enable or disable the end on your server. Here you have the connection throttle, which I recommend setting to -1 because basically it will allow you to reconnect to your server immediately. Whereas if you set it to 4000, you'll have to wait 4000 ticks, which will actually prevent you from connecting to your server right after disconnecting. So it's basically something that's generally useless and that you'll want to disable. Query plugins is something you can disable to basically hide the plugins you're using on your server. Anyway, there are lots of little options, even some things to optimize your server's performance that are interesting, but we'll talk about those in a future video. Next, in the same vein, you have the spigot.yml file and server properties. So here again, we're going to edit it, and as you can see, there are lots of little settings once again. So the maximum number of players you can have on your server. You have the size of your world, you have lots of settings. You can set this to 0, for example, instead of 16. This will allow you to disable spawn protection, which is useless and which you'll generally replace with plugins to protect your spawn. So there are lots of little settings like this that you can remove. So once again, make sure to check the documentation for these files. It's super easy to find on Google. You can even ask ChatGPT to explain what each setting does, so at least you'll know their purpose and can edit them directly from this file. Now to talk again about FTP itself, you may have noticed that when I want to edit a file, I right-click and select Edit. It's true that I haven't mentioned it yet, but I recommend using Sublime Text, which will allow you to edit your server files directly with a pretty nice interface. So, as you just saw, I edited my files with Sublime Text, which is a software I recommend for editing your configurations in a pretty clean way. There you go, so that it really looks nice. And actually, how do you link Sublime Text to your FTP once you've installed it, so that when you right-click and select Edit, it lets you edit with Sublime Text? Well, it's very simple. We're going to go to Edit Configure right here, and then you can just add it. If that's not already the case, feel free to remove it. For example, I can remove Sublime Text with Remove. You, for instance, can remove Notepad++ or the default Windows Notepad, and then you simply add it. Leave this as default. Basically, it means it will edit all file types. And here you select external editor and then choose your software directly. So I have selected Sublime Text. So once you click edit right here, it will open your Sublime Text directly. Next, in the file section, there are plenty of other little things. First, you have the waitlist, but for that we'll mostly use in-game commands. But otherwise, what will interest you are the folders. So here we have our 3 default Minecraft worlds. We can add new ones later on. We'll look at that a little bit later, but you have the Nether world, the End world, and then the normal world where you'll be able to have your adventures. And in these folders, you have the data packs, player data, the world regions that are generated, which are basically the chunks of the server, quite simply. And then the data folder, which stores lots of things like the world border, the scoreboard, etc. Here you have your server versions. So in our case, we're running paper version 1.21.11. So there you go, it's listed in there. So you don't touch that. Here you have your plugins. We're going to install our plugins right here, but we'll cover that in the next episode. In the logs, you'll be able to see pretty much everything related to server errors, what's happening. Basically, it's a transcript of your console in an editable text file. You don't need to worry about the libraries, they're just there to make your server work. And here you have more settings that you can edit and modify. So again, there are lots of things here. So I'll let you do your own research. For example, you can disable the anti-X-ray feature. It's just performance being used for nothing. If you don't need it, you can change the end bar, the speed at which the end bar goes down. You can also modify the treasure chests on the map. In short, there are really all the settings you could possibly imagine. So on that note, it's up to you to do your own research. There are optimizations to be made pretty much everywhere. So there will be an episode on this channel dedicated exclusively to optimizations, but that will come a bit later for those who are really motivated. So there you go, you now have all the important information to learn how to connect to your FTP, how to use it, and what the different files are for. Now what we're obviously interested in is installing plugins. Of course, this could also include installing mods. We're going to stick with plugins because when it comes to mods, if you want to run a serious Minecraft server, it's become very complicated to do so with mods since you need to have an in-house developer. You need to have people who can help you if needed, especially when it comes to mods, whereas plugins are much more accessible. And it's also easier to find a developer who can handle plugins if you need one, rather than someone who manages mods. So in this video, we'll be focusing only on plugins, and overall, you'll be able to use the administrator panel to install plugins from Modrinth directly onto your panel. So it's super convenient. However, what we'll cover in the next video is a slightly more professional way to install plugins, how to select them, how to choose them, how to find the best plugin, because there are plenty of plugins that do the same thing. So how do you know which plugin to choose between two? How do you know it will be optimized, that there won't be any bugs, or that you won't have issues when starting up because of a plugin? Well, we'll cover all of that in the next video. But for now, if you want to install a plugin, let's say Essentials X, for example, which is really the plugin everyone uses for their server. We're going to click on install. There you go, right here. And here you can see that we have the version of our server. We just have to click on install this version and it's already installed. All that's left is to restart our server and you'll see that in the console, the plugin will show up. So here, I'm really assuming that you have, well, zero experience when it comes to creating a server. So I'm really going to give you all the information. And as you can see right there, Bukkit plugin, we do have our Essentials installed. So what is Essentials? It's a plugin that lets you have commands like /sethome, /spawn, /world. Basically kits and a bunch of basic things that pretty much every server uses. And well, Essentials has them. So it's really super convenient and it's as simple as that. Once the server has restarted, in your /pl or /plugins with an S, you'll see Essentials in green. If the plugin is in red, it means you installed it incorrectly or there's a missing dependency. So that's another plugin that will be necessary to make the plugin you just installed work. Essentials doesn't have any, which is why it loads on its own, but some plugins do have dependencies, so that can happen. So that's it for this video. I hope it was useful to you and helped you get started with creating your server. Unfortunately, this is only the first step. So if you're still a bit lost, you'll have to wait for the next video, which should be released fairly soon. And in that next video, we'll talk about installing plugins, configuring plugins, how to properly set up a plugin, how to understand how a plugin's configuration works, and how to make the right choices when selecting your plugins so you don't end up installing bad plugins. Plugins with viruses, backdoors, or other issues that could simply prevent you from launching your server to the public. We'll cover all of that in the next video. In the meantime, I'll see you very soon. This was Fox. Feel free to subscribe to follow the rest of this adventure. Bye everyone!